The alarms had stopped screaming, which somehow made everything worse. Silence settled into the broken street like a bad decision, humming softly with leftover energy from shattered emitters and dying drones. She lay pinned beneath something that had once been a wall and was now reconsidering its life choices, unable to move anything below her shoulders. Her long ears twitched despite her best efforts, a reflex she hated because it betrayed fear far better than words ever could. "You should go," she said for the fourth time, voice steady in the way only stubborn people manage when terrified. "Your species has an excellent survival rate when it follows basic instructions. This would be one of those moments." He crouched beside her, helmet cracked, visor gone, a thin line of blood drifting upward in the low gravity before remembering gravity was currently offended and dropping again. "I'm listening," he said. "I'm just creatively interpreting." She exhaled sharply. "That is not listening, that is human negligence." "Heroic negligence," he corrected, tugging at a sparking cable to shut it up. The cable sparked harder in protest. "Okay, spiteful negligence. Still counts." Her eyes followed the motion, then flicked toward the dark archway where enemy units would eventually notice the lack of explosions and grow curious. "My neural interface is burned out. I can't feel my legs. In approximately 3 minutes, automated recovery units will arrive, and they will not care that you are charming." "I am extremely charming," he said, smiling despite the situation. "Statistically speaking." She made a sound halfway between a laugh and a groan. "You cannot carry me. I weigh more than you." "That's rude," he said. "Also inaccurate. I skipped breakfast." He tested the slab pinning her shoulder. It didn't move. He frowned at it as if personally offended. "All right, plan B." "There is no plan B," she said. "Plan A is you leaving. Plan C is you leaving faster." He leaned closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "What if I told you humans are terrible at plans, but excellent at stubborn momentum?" "That would explain your history," she muttered. He braced himself, muscles screaming as the slab shifted just enough. Not free but hopeful, he grinned. "See, negotiation." Her ears flattened. "You're going to hurt yourself." "Already did," he said cheerfully. "Several times today. It's becoming a theme." Another distant thump echoed through the ruins. Something was waking up, something unfriendly. She swallowed, eyes shining. "You don't owe me this." He paused, considering, then shrugged. "Maybe not, but I want to." That quiet answer unsettled her more than any alarm. She opened her mouth to argue again, then closed it as he carefully slid an arm beneath her shoulders, the other behind her knees. The world tilted. Panic flared, and then steadied as he adjusted his grip with surprising gentleness. "You drop me," she said tightly, "and I will haunt you across dimensions." "Deal," he said, "but only if you agree not to critique my posture." "I absolutely will not agree to that." He laughed, a short breathy sound, and stood. Pain shot through him, bright and immediate, but he stayed upright. The city groaned around them, ancient tech reactivating out of pure spite. He took a step, then another, boots skidding as gravity flickered again. She stared at his face, too close now, human eyes absurdly calm. "You're insane." "Occupational hazard." Her long ears brushed his cheek as she shifted, then stilled. For the first time since the battle, she didn't tell him to leave. Instead, she sighed and muttered, "If we survive this, I am never letting you forget how stupid this was." He adjusted his grip and started forward into the humming dark, looking forward to it. He learned quickly that carrying an alien woman through a collapsing city was less like a rescue and more like negotiating with physics during a temper tantrum. Every corridor argued with him. Floors tilted out of spite, doors hissed in languages that sounded offended, and the gravity kept switching between polite suggestion and personal insult. "You're drifting left," she said. "That's the gravity," he replied, teeth clenched as his boots slid. "It doesn't respect personal space. My people calibrated these systems to respond to stress." "Well, congratulations," he said. "I'm extremely stressed." A security node unfolded from the ceiling ahead, lenses blinking awake like a predator clearing sleep from its eyes. He froze. The node emitted a tone that suggested it was deciding whether he was trash or target. She leaned her head back against his shoulder. If it scans us, it will summon reinforcements. Good news, he whispered. I have a plan. That sentence never ends well. He stepped forward and waved. Hey there, he said to the node. Maintenance. The node paused. Another tone, confused this time, she stared at him. You are attempting deception. Casual deception, he corrected. Very friendly. The node projected a flickering glyph panel. Authorization required. He sighed. I was hoping for vibes-based access. She focused, eyes narrowing. Though her body remained unresponsive, her mind was sharp, interfacing through fragments of her damaged implant. Move your wrist closer. He did. The panel flashed, then flickered again, reading the residual energy from her suit and his very human biometrics and clearly hating both. Why is it angry? He asked. It believes you are stealing me. Well, he said, I kind of am. The node emitted a warbling error sound and folded back into the ceiling, offended enough to give up. He exhaled. See, humans are excellent at confusing technology. She snorted before she could stop herself, then winced. Do not let that inflate your ego. They moved on, weaving through half-lit passageways where alien advertisements still whispered outdated slogans and medical drones lay scattered like exhausted insects. His arms shook now, muscles burning, but he refused to adjust his grip if it meant risking her balance. You can put me down, she said quietly, just for a moment. And let you miss all this sightseeing, he said, absolutely not. A distant metallic shriek echoed behind them. Pursuit, she stiffened. They've locked onto our trajectory. Rude, he muttered. I hate being predictable. He ducked into a transit shaft and nearly regretted it when the floor dropped out from under him. Gravity snapped sideways. They slammed gently into a wall and then began sliding along it like badly packaged cargo. She laughed then, sharp and surprised. You are going to die doing this. Probably, he said, pushing off with one foot. But I will die committed. Lights flared ahead as an ancient tram system sputtered to life, reacting to their unauthorized presence. The platform hummed, energy building, with the enthusiasm of something that had waited centuries to be useful again. She watched him stagger onto it. This system is unstable. Perfect, he said, so am I. The tram jolted forward with a sound like a grumpy god clearing its throat. Enemy fire struck the walls behind them, splashing light and heat, but the tram lurched into a tunnel and vanished into darkness. For a moment, there was only the hum of motion and his ragged breathing. She studied his face, the way he kept glancing down to make sure she was still secure, still there. Why? She asked softly. He blinked. Why what? Why refuse to leave? He considered, then smiled tiredly. Because if I did, I'd survive. And I don't think I'd like the person who did that. She closed her eyes, long ears relaxing against him as the tram carried them deeper into uncertainty. And for the first time since the battle, hope, reckless, stubborn hope, felt heavier than fear. The tram screamed its objections as it decelerated, sparks peeling off the rails like annoyed fireflies before the system finally gave up and coasted into stillness. The doors hesitated, considered remaining closed forever, then slid apart with a sigh that felt personal. Beyond them waited the transit nexus, dimly lit, ancient and humming with power that did not care whether anyone felt ready. He stepped out carefully, legs trembling now, and nearly collapsed when gravity decided to return to normal without warning. He caught himself against a console, laughing breathlessly. I'm filing a complaint with the universe, he said. This is not user-friendly. She watched the space with widening eyes. This place responds to bonded neural signatures. It was theorized, never proven. Good, he said. I hate proven things, they're smug. The nexus pulsed as if acknowledging him, light rippling across the floor in concentric rings. Her damaged implant flickered, then stabilized. She gasped softly. It's reading intent, Not command, choice. Enemy signals flared behind them. He shifted his stance, still holding her, shoulders squaring despite the pain. Any chance this place has a button labeled "Save Us"? There is no button, she said. Then more quietly, but there is a response. The light surged. The nexus unfolded around them, architecture reconfiguring in ways that felt less mechanical and more curious. Her paralysis did not vanish, but sensation returned in sparks like limbs remembering old stories. She drew a sharp breath and focused, guiding the system not through authority but trust. Outside, weapons fired. Inside, probability bent. He felt it, the shift, like the universe clearing its throat. His fear faded, not gone, but reshaped. He wasn't reacting anymore. He was choosing. The realization startled him more than the battle ever had. The nexus flared once more and then released them, not back into the city, but into open sky. A human recovery ship hovered above, drawn by impossible readings and stubborn hope. Enemy forces scattered as the nexus collapsed behind them, sealing itself, satisfied. Medical teams rushed forward. As they carefully transferred her, she caught his sleeve. Her long ears trembled, but her smile was steady. "You disobeyed logic, doctrine, and me." He grinned weakly. "I'm branching out." Days later, when she stood again, unsteady but standing, she found him watching the stars through a viewport, quieter than before. She joined him. "You changed," she said. He nodded. "Turns out survival isn't the same as living." She bumped her shoulder gently against his. "You stayed." "Yeah," he said, "and I would again." Outside, the stars kept moving, indifferent as ever. Inside, something had shifted, and for once the universe seemed to approve. The recovery came quietly. There was no burst of light, no dramatic announcement. Just the low hum of the ship's engines at shift change, and the moment she realized she could feel her toes, truly feel them. "That's strange," she said, gripping the edge of the medical bed. "I complained about the pain for so long. Now its absence feels wrong." Across the room, slumped in a chair and half asleep, he lifted his head. Dark circles framed his eyes, but he smiled. "Human bodies are weird too. We miss things we should be glad to lose." She stood, the first step wavered, the second held. Her long ears trembled slightly, but she didn't fall. She paused as if waiting for permission from herself, from the universe, then walked, properly, fully. He realized he'd been holding his breath and let it out slowly. "Well," he said, "there goes my excuse to carry you everywhere." She laughed. "My condolences to your spine." They stood there in silence for a while. Outside the viewport, the planet turned under a sky that was no longer hostile. The reports were finished. The ancient transit nexus was sealed. The battlefield quarantined. The danger was over, completely over. "You'll have to leave," she said at last. There was no desperation in her voice now, just truth. He shrugged. "Probably, just not immediately." She looked at him. "Is that a promise?" "It's a habit," he said. "Humans sometimes stay." Her ears relaxed. "My people took a long time to understand that." "So did we," he said, "still working on it." A week later, the ships separated. Protocols were followed. Borders redrawn. But one data record entered official archives between two species, technology activated by conscious loyalty. More importantly, proof that such loyalty could exist. Before they parted, she placed a small, unremarkable device in his hand. "Communication," she said. "This time it actually works." He slipped it into his pocket. "I'll call," he said, "at an unreasonable hour." "I would like that." As the ship pulled away, neither of them looked back, because it was no longer a place escaped from, but a place that could be returned to. And the universe, for once, did not object.